Sure, some of you are still a little sore-headed from the semi-final win. We're going to win tomorrow, aren't we? Oh, yeah. Come on, we're going to win tomorrow, aren't we? Yeah. It's coming home. Okay, I've been told not to sing. But I'm delighted about this session because it is the story of Coventry, past, present and future. I know there are some more people trying to come in and join us a bit later on, but the more that we give, I know with social distancing and all sorts, but I really hope we can get some nice questions in. We've got a fantastic panel. I'm delighted at the calibre of the panel as well. It's just wonderful that Coventry is City of Culture and we are hosting the world, so to speak, in whatever way we can. We know we can't do it, you know, because of COVID, the way we wanted to do it, but we are doing it online as well. So, you know, anything you want to say, please say it. You know, Coventry's rich history. We've got remarkable history when it comes to the transport, when it comes to innovations, when it comes to city centre design, when it comes to changing the way racism is looked at in the country. Two-tone changed a lot of things for me growing up in Coventry as a teenager. So I'm incredibly proud to be a Coventrian, very, very proud to be with you today, sitting in or standing in for Shanine. So what we're going to be doing is this, like I say, it is the history of Coventry's past, present and future. We've got some incredible speakers. Right Honourable Byrne. Oh, look, he's got his feet up. Round of applause, please. Round of applause.
Settled in.
MP for Birmingham, Hodge Hill. We've also got Dr. Geoff Willcocks, who I'm still in front of. Hello, Dr. Geoff.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we've got Lauryn, Brandy, a campaigner for Positive Youth Foundation, who've done so much positive things in the city. They've certainly helped out my sons and all his friends looking for a more positive future. So I would love you to get involved. Obviously, it's interactive, so it's really important that we get as much input from you as we can. So I know you're going to speak individually.
You've been told to give a little bit.
Absolutely. So I'm going to just move off, which I hate doing because I love being the centre of attention. But we'll hear from each speaker. But I'm so glad you're here. I can't believe how wide awake you look. I've put my contact lenses in, my makeup's not sorted, and my afro is going a bit awry because of the damp. So that's enough from me. But let's hear from our first speaker, Byrne. Round of applause, please.
Right. Trish, right, thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. Greetings from the faraway land of Birmingham. My name's Byrne. I'm a Member of Parliament in East Birmingham, and I am just one of the biggest fans of Coventry. And over the last couple of years, I've been coming to Coventry time and time again during my fight for the selection to be Labour's candidate for mayor, and then obviously during the election, ill-starred as it turned out. But what I want to do today is just build on some of the remarks I made yesterday, but just kind of push it on a little bit and just sort of be a bit more challenging about what some of the challenges are, I think, that Coventry really needs to seize. So I started yesterday with the story of the 14th of November 1940, that anniversary of annihilation when the heavens opened and thousands of tons of incendiaries, high explosive landmines landed on the city, destroying 43,000 homes. The biggest fire of World War II at the Coventry Daimler plant. St Michael's went up in flames by 8 o'clock that night. 200 fires raged across the city. And when the all clear was finally sounded at 6:15 the following morning, the people of Coventry came out and watched and saw a city that had been destroyed. And what did they do? Rolled up their sleeves and rebuilt. Not just a new city, but a new symbol. A symbol of peace, reconciliation, hope. And that story that Coventry has written over the last 8 decades is the story that Coventry has written actually over the last 8 centuries. If you think about the way that Coventry was the fifth biggest economy during the Great Commercial Revolution, about the time that St Mary's was built, the taxpayers of Coventry were the fifth most important income source here in Britain. And then as we go into the main industrial revolution, you've got hundreds of factories, great epicenter of the ribbon trade, then watchmaking, then the epicenter of the auto trade at a time when Britain was the second biggest car exporter in the world. Time and time again, from Lady Godiva, the mother of civic freedom, through to Frank Whittle, the father of the jet age, over that long arc of history, Coventry has reinvented itself time and time again. It's made history by inventing the future. And that's what Coventry's got to do again. So I set out 3 big opportunities yesterday. One, industrially. Coventry is becoming now the epicenter of the electric vehicle industry, the battery technology industry. You know, Coventry has really got to push aggressively ahead here. But my challenge to Coventry is be more ambitious globally. There are now great international alliances of cities coming together, determined to break a path towards zero carbon. There are 10,500 days between now and the goals of the deadlines of the Paris Agreement. Why isn't Coventry saying, look, we're going to be one of the first net zero carbon cities in the country, and why don't we really pioneer electric transport in all of its modes, in all of its forms, as a contribution to that? Why don't we know about Coventry around the world as a pioneer of what a city can do on the path to net zero? The number of alliances, whether it's the OECD Alliance of Cities, whether it's the CAC 40, these are things where these are global stages on which Coventry could really take a leadership position. Second opportunity for me for Coventry is then civically. Coventry City Centre South, that is 40% of the city centre core, is being redeveloped. It is the biggest redevelopment of any city centre in the UK. And what should it look like? It should look like this. It should look like this. You should rebuild a city centre of pervasive culture. Culture is what we celebrate as humans. It's what makes us human. It's how we relate to each other because we're social animals. Create amazing spaces like this so that culture, conversation is pervasive through that new city centre core. That is something that you're uniquely placed to be able to do. The third revolution, though, is much messier and less predictable and very Coventry. So the thing that I have learnt most here in Coventry over the last 2 or 3 years is about the social capital of the place and the civic entrepreneurialism and the entrepreneurial politics. So, when I wanted to learn about how to look after the homeless community, I went out with Nobby Clark and the Coventry Night Shelter team through the city centre. You go through that city centre, in normal times, you've got 2 or 3 different groups setting up soup kitchens, making sure the people of the city who are less fortunate are well fed. Think about what Hugh McNeil does at Trussell Trust. Think about what Hope Coventry does. Think about the social supermarket out in Fossil. The inventiveness is extraordinary. And what is amazing about it is the way that it brings people together. The last time I was in Coventry was actually to go and see Hugh at the Trussell Trust warehouse, just to kind of see how they were doing during the pandemic. And both you and I were kind of reduced to tears as we were going around the warehouse, and we got to the big kind of wall where the big shutter is, and there was this freshly baked bread. And Hugh said, yeah, that is the bread that the Syrian refugees bake and bring in each day, which then goes into our food parcels out to hungry families across Coventry. So what Coventry has kind of mastered is this kind of civic energy in a way that actually brings people together. Now, I hope that the cutting edge of this revolution, Trish, over the next 4 or 5 years is around young people. Because, one of the most popular pledges that I made during the mayoral campaign was this pledge to put youth workers back in every neighbourhood across the West Midlands. The changing dynamics of gang violence today, the changing dynamics of social media, the changing dynamics of county lines, the changing dynamics of young people's access to serious weaponry and indeed serious artillery. The fact that we now have 13, 14-year-old kids now selling heroin in places like Southampton and Edinburgh. The changing dynamics of gang violence now pose an existential threat to the fortunes of many of our children. And so my final plea is that these challenges aren't unique to Coventry. These challenges, confront us all over the country. But here in Coventry, you have got an energy, a spirit, an ability, a kind of alchemy of just kind of cracking on with stuff, please deploy that energy towards the business of crafting new futures for our young people. Be a pioneer of how civic energy and entrepreneurialism can invent new futures for our young people. Here in Coventry, you know how futures are built, but the futures we really need to build is a new future for our young people. And I think you're in a unique place to crack on with that. And I can't wait to see how you do. Thanks very much.
I don't know about you, but that's really inspired me. And we know how brilliant the food bank are doing. So thank you for that wonderful, moving story as well. But it is a serious crisis. We know in Coventry, we had an awful spate of knife crimes. Literally 13 teenagers in 6 months either maimed or sadly killed by knife attacks. So we know there is an issue like many cities across the UK. So as Liam says, we have a challenge that we all need to be part of. It is not a black issue, it is not a white issue, it's not an Asian issue, it's not a Chinese issue, it's our community issue. Thank you very much, Liam. Well said. Brilliant inspirational talks today. Our next talker, as I said, Dr. Geoff Willcocks, who is the Director of Arts, Culture and Heritage at Coventry University. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you. It's a real great pleasure to be here and a great honour to be asked to speak this morning. And also a note to self: never be on a panel where you have to follow the legendary Byrne. That was an amazing summation, I think, of where Coventry it could potentially go. And I think it's even better coming from a Brummie MP.
Jealous from.
But I think there's some truth in that. I think very often we do need people from the outside to come in and reflect on us and tell us what we are as a city. Now, I was asked to talk a bit about Coventry's present. So today I feel very much like the ghost of Coventry's ghost of Christmas present, which probably isn't a bad kind of analogy, really, because in Dickens, the ghost of Christmas present is his job is to spread joy and to celebrate. And I think there is a huge amount to celebrate in Coventry at the moment. Yesterday morning, I was at a summit, which was part of really the end of a kind of 5-year project that we've been doing at the university called Coventry Modern, and really the kind of focus of that project has been to really look in depth and detail at the modernist architecture of the city, which I'm sure, as many of you will know here, is some of the most important in the city. As part of that project, we got the legendary Charles Landry to come and do a psychological profile of the city, a psychology of the city. And yesterday at the summit, Charles and his team started to feed back on their findings about the city. So fundamentally, in terms of process, they've been right across the city. They've spoken to many people, hundreds of people, and they've built this psychological profile. So you're going to forgive me if I read this, because this is right hot off of the press yesterday. So it's much more detailed than this, so I'm just kind of giving you the headlines. Okay, so we're a welcoming and tolerant city. We're stoic in adversity, but we're also a city that's really very ambitious for its future. But also as well, within that, there's a real strong theme about Coventry still striving, perhaps even still struggling to find its identity, to find who it is and what its place in the world is. Now, I think there's a huge amount in here which we can talk about later on and discuss, but I think there's something really interesting in there. No, I don't have a huge amount of time this morning, and Liam's already covered so many great things about the city, but I think we are in a moment in the city where great things are happening, and these aren't just kind of here today, gone tomorrow initiatives. There are lots of things happening in the city now which are long-term, permanent changes in terms of helping Coventry to redevelop itself. And as I say, I think we will talk more about that later on. But it's not a city, as Trish and Liam have just said, without its problems. It's still a city of massive economic inequalities and massive health inequalities as well. Not that those two things are mutually exclusive. And I still really think, going back to that point of identity, We're still a city that needs to find its, what we call nowadays, its narrative. What is its story? We do have lots of stories which are from the past, but what is our story now? What is the story that we're telling to the world about who we are now as a city? And I think this is a very special time for Coventry, because I think it's a very exciting time. I think also as well, it kind of really struck me a couple of days ago that the last time the world was in trauma, global trauma in terms of the Second World War, Coventry rose out of that, and I know, and I apologise to everyone from Coventry, yes, it's a cliche, but we rose phoenix-like from the ashes and began again. And it kind of feels to me now that as we're coming out of this pandemic, Coventry is doing the same thing again. It's rising on wings of fire. And I'm not suggesting there's any causal link there. I'm not suggesting that Coventry only does well when the rest of the world is in chaos and is falling apart. I don't think that's the case. But I think what is the case is that it does show that we're a resilient city, and we're a city that bootstraps itself up. And when the chips are down, this city comes out swinging and manages to succeed. It's been a theme, and it was yesterday, it was mentioned a lot in the summit that we had yesterday afternoon. This city has continually reinvented itself over and over and over and over again. I think cities do that globally, but I think we actually lead the way in being able to do that in completely different ways every time we do this. I was part of the bid writing team for City of Culture, and I always tell the story that started on the 4th of February 2014, when David Nuttall from the City Council knocked on the door of my office, which is currently a building site just over there, and said, do you think it would be a good idea if we bid for City of Culture? And I immediately said yes. I mean, and that's no kind of retrospective hyperbole. I did say I think it was an amazing idea for the city. And one of our mantras at that time, all the way through that process, was, the time is now. When people would say, why are you doing this? Because we say the time is right. The time is absolutely now for this city. And as the years have rolled by, as that sort of 7-8 years has happened in the intervening period, not once have I not thought that was true. In fact, every year that goes by, it seems to become more and more true that this is now Coventry's time. To nick the words of Trish, the great Trish Willits, the director of the bid, who's speaking somewhere else at the moment, this is Coventry's time to shine. And I really look forward to discussing that further with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Geoff. Oh, thank you, Geoff. And thank you for being part of the writers, the bid writers, to make this happen. You know what's incredible? I grew up on Queen Margaret's Road in Coventry, probably one of the toughest roads back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I can remember it was just so tough being the so-called child of an immigrant. But all those people on that street, especially when it was the Queen's Jubilee in 1977, were just so incredibly fantastic. We were skint, we were poor. I'm sure many of you have had the same upbringing. But it was so wonderful. It was so community spirited. And yesterday, I was in Wood End volunteering for a youth group my son runs called Fire Days Coventry. And they were there with young people, engaging with them. And this guy turns up. He says, what are you doing in our end? Get out. If you don't go, we'll move you. And my son and his friends said, no, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're here to help young people. And I'm telling you, what Liam said earlier about investing in the youth, I am telling you, we have got some amazing young people. And what's amazing about today, and I'm not being paid today to be here, what is amazing about today is please go and spread the message of what the Big Tent Ideas Festival is trying to do, which is to start communication. And I was so proud, and I will shut up, I promise, as a mom, stood there where white, black, Asian stood there saying, we're not leaving Wood End. We're from Wyking. We're not leaving Wood End because we're here to help the young people. And this one guy just became so insignificant. And it makes me know the power of young people, middle-aged people like me, whatever, we can stand up and we can solve some of these problems that are happening. And like Liam says, I look out here and this is what a wonderful redesign, green area, green future looks like. But you know what? I know we can do this, and I know we've got the power to do this as well. So I will shut up. But to tell you, one of the things, which is why I'm so excited about our next speaker, because Positive Youth Foundation are doing so much positivity. Please try and support them where you can, because they are going into those areas that need the help. Can I welcome to the stage Lauryn Brandy, campaigner for Positive Youth Foundation.
Like, really similarly to what everybody has said here today, I just think it's so important that we put time and effort into the young people of Coventry, because when we think of the past, the present and the future, they're the people who are going to drive this future that we see for Coventry. And I think it's important that we listen to them and we think about what we want out of the future of Coventry, because all the future leaders that I surround myself with at PYF, at Positive Youth Foundation, and all these other amazing organisations that are youth-led and youth-driven, they're the ones with the ideas and they're the ones who the future's going to affect the most. And I think it's important that we look at the bad reputation that Coventry's had and that young people have had, and the bad image that they're given all the time. And I think it's important that we change that and we look at how important it is to listen to the good things that they're going to bring and the ideas that they bring, and how it's important that we look at how they think, basically, and how their ideas are going to change the future. Because I think that listening to, it's, like I say, it's so important to listen to everybody, but I just think young people have got a voice as well, and sometimes are a bit worried that their reputation is going to overshine how they actually are and what their ideas actually are. I don't know if that makes sense. No. But I just kind of going to keep it short, but I just think that I'm here today to bring a young voice to this panel and to say that young people really are the future, and I think that they need to be listened to, and their voice, their ideas really, really do need to be heard.
Thank you. Right. Okay. So we have got 19 minutes before this session ends, and I want as many questions to our panellists. So rather than me keep popping on and off, I'm going to stand here. And if the speakers, if you could, if anyone obviously wants to ask questions, please get to the front. Is that all right? First question. Fantastic.
I've got a 13-year-old boy.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Could you come to the mic, sir? Thank you.
I've got two kids. One's 13. He's about that tall. And he goes to school, comes home, PlayStation, that time. How do I get him, or how do you get him to be involved in youth and that kind of thing? Not because he's in drugs or anything like that, but just I want him out, because I think COVID's locked him in and they're just now used to that. And the second question, for my daughter's an artist and she's exhibiting her work at Birmingham Museum. Why isn't Coventry doing things for Indian artists in the area to exhibit their work? So I've got two questions.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
So do you want to start, Lauryn?
Yeah,
So he goes to Foxford School.
Foxford School,
yeah.
yeah. I just think I have always been involved from about the same age, from about 13, is when I got involved with Positive Youth Foundation. I started taking every opportunity that they gave me, and that kind of was, I was quite lucky in that they came to my school and they were showcased to me. It wasn't too difficult for me to find these opportunities, but that's not the same for every young person. Sometimes these opportunities aren't just given to them, so vividly. But it's important, I think, for your son. Places like Positive Youth Foundation, where if PlayStation's what he wants to do, we do youth clubs where he can do that. But he's in an environment surrounded by all these other young people where all these amazing opportunities are going to be given to him to go and volunteer, to go up and down the country, talking about what he's passionate about. And, every young person enjoys their hobbies, and if his is playing the computer, then it's finding a place for him to do what he enjoys, but also, like I say, be in a space where these opportunities are available to him.
Thank you, Lauryn. Geoff, how do we get all cultures represented when it comes... you can go. How do we get all cultures represented when it comes to exhibiting?
I think that's a really, really good question. And I think actually what you've just said is actually probably more significant in the fact that I just don't think it's in this city, it's isolated to why aren't we representing Indian artists. I think there is a significant lack, and it's something that we identify in the bid. And if I'm honest with you, I mean, we're just opening one new gallery just across the road there in what used to be Draper's Bar, which is now Metropolis. I can see the Pet Xi Pink over there, who are running the restaurant for us downstairs. And I'm in conversations about 3 more galleries in the city as well. One of the significant things when we started the bid that I kept bringing to the table was, where do local artists exhibit their work, and more importantly for me, where do local artists sell their work? Yeah. Because artists don't do it for free. Artists, that's how they make their living. And there was no commercial gallery, for example, and no selling space in the city. So definitely on the back of city culture and using that as a driver for those things. Yeah, rest assured, that's something that is still very much top of the agenda. In terms of is it happening yet? No, because infrastructure takes time to build. But as you can see, the city is still a building site.
Okay. Well, let's hold him to his word.
No,
you've now got a contact for your daughter, Leo. Leo, you talked about the future.
Yeah.
You talked about the future and having to invest in young people, having to invest. How do we engage the young people? Because, we're all middle-aged, the majority, there's quite a few youngsters there, keep your glasses on. How do we engage them, Leo?
So I'll tell you a funny story. So so part of my patch in Hodge Hill is a place called Shard End and Kitts Green. And a youth centre went up there just before I got elected. And it's taken me about 10 years to find the money to get it open and get it functioning. And so this youth centre was the vision of none other than Prince Charles. But the way it was built was Prince Charles came to the city and stood on the top of a building in the city centre with the person who was then running youth services and looked out over the city and kind of asked, right, where do we need youth facilities? And they sort of said, well, over there. And they said, right, okay, well, let's build a youth centre over there. And it looks beautiful and the bricks are from Holland. But no one actually thought about how the hell do you find the money to actually open the place and run it? And so wouldn't it have been a better idea to actually, instead of kind of have the future heir to the crown stand in the middle of the city centre and say, well, it's over there. It would have been a lot better to kind of say, right, here is some money. Yeah. Now let's get some young people. Yeah. And let's give the money to the young people, and then the young people can design the solution. And I think that is part of the challenge really to Coventry is, and indeed, Coventry's relationship with the Combined Authority. We found the money, we identified the money in the Combined Authority that could have been given to cities to rehire youth workers. Without youth workers, a lot of this becomes incredibly difficult. But you have then got to have a mindset which is you've got to surrender the space to young people. Yeah. So are
we scared? Are we scared of young people? Are we scared of talking to young people? Are we actually scared of young people?
I think that is a good question. But I don't think so. But I think there's been a failure of imagination. And, the example I want to give is, say, if you take Trafalgar Square, so they've got this concept of the fourth plinth. Yeah. And people decide what goes on the fourth plinth. So how do we get into a position where, if you imagine your new city centre looks like this, right? How do you get into a position where you kind of say, right, there, and there, we're going to have some spaces where we're going to basically ask some young people to just kind of take some stewardship and ownership of that place and just go and do some amazing things. Okay. So it's a part of it is a kind of surrender the space mindset. Yeah. But you have got to have the money in place to make the progress. Absolutely.
Any more questions, please? We haven't got... they're all shut up. Right. Okay, we'll try and get through as many as we can. Do you want to quickly come to the mic? And then, sorry, can we get... And then we'll get you, sir.
Hello, my name's Anna Marie and I run Canley Community Centre. Round the corner from where Trish grew up. It's known as the local ghetto. Yes. Right. My problem is 2 years ago I set up a youth centre. My problem is we don't get many youths because there is so much trouble on the streets. They have trouble coming in the door and they don't feel safe enough. How do I work around that?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with Lauryn and then Geoff, obviously, and Leon, please.
I think the most important thing to bringing people into a youth centre, somewhere new, somewhere where they might feel like they could be judged or there could be trouble, I think, similar to what he said, it needs to be young people driven. It needs to be a place where they want to be. And I'm so proud to say that like Positive Youth Foundation has become one of those places through having young people lead everything they do, be the face of PUF is a young person, is young people. And it's not, you know, giving them these adults who they're kind of maybe a bit scared of, and they're kind of maybe a bit scared of like the repercussions of their actions outside of this youth centre. They need to know that it's a safe space and that it's a place where their values and their opinions and everything are respected and listened to.
So is it a case then, Anne-Marie, you need to get some, as Liam says, you need to be going out and getting these young people and saying, I want you to run the centre for a couple of weeks. We're going to support you.
We've done that. The problem is where the centre is, they're known for dealing drugs outside or they'll stand on the doorstep smoking weed. I've been there a long time. A lot of people have a lot of respect for me, so I can go outside and I can actually speak to them and they will do what I ask them to do because it's how you speak to them.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are certain times when we've got certain people who come to the session but they feel intimidated because we have special needs children come to the groups. Youth group as well. So they feel intimidated by the people standing outside. And I can't, as a person on my own, I can't police it myself.
No.
Yeah.
Can I just say as well, just into this, Positive Youth Foundation encouraged Fridays Coventry, and they go to people.
Well,
so yesterday,
they came to us.
Yeah, they came to you. They went to Woodend. They literally stood in the place where Jaden was killed as a 15-year-old, and they stood there and they did their show there. And people, it was intense. I felt pretty nervous at one stage. But so they stood their ground and they said, we're not bloody moving. These are our ends as well, because you know what? We're from flipping Coventry. And I think, we have to be bold and we have to enamour and help these children, because we as adults were walking children from the city centre to the West Indian Club to do Fridays Coventry. And we were walking them and we walked them back to their parents who were waiting at the top, thanks to the help and support of people like Positive. So this is what I'm saying. We have to get bold. We have to reclaim our streets. And we've got to stop being namby-pamby, because you know something? That's how bullies work, and that's how these, it's our city. Yeah. It's our city. And if they want to have if they want to take us on, we need to have the bottle to take them on. And I'm telling you, I saw it with my very own eyes yesterday. 5 young people, and this guy was at least 29, 30. He had a bottle in his hand, and they said, we're not moving. This is our city.
Yeah, you definitely have to stand up for yourself.
You have to stand up. Definitely. Sorry to interject. Can we I know we're going to, because we want to run out of questions. Do you want to come to the next thing, and then Geoff, Liam will get you in. Okay, sorry, 10 minutes.
Hello, my name is Noor Aziz.
Hi, Noor.
Yeah, hi Trish. I just wonder whether the speakers have been to Canley?
Yeah, no, Canley well.
Yeah, and Canley, with the help of Trish and Siobhan Harrison, 2015, that kickstart the whole, we call it a community spirit, to recap and regroup and how we should look into our community. And with the help of West Midlands Police Community Initiative Fund, we bring together lots of activities, including what Anna-Marie mentioned just now. However, our good things have improved the statistic, less crime, meaning that we are no longer eligible for this kind of funding. And the thing is, now it's Hillfield, and I'm invited to do job for Hillfield. I mean, my job is just voluntary. Engage people in anything.
What's your question?
But question is, to say, if you base on statistic that we already improved and you pull out the funding, that is not quite right.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
totally
I'm going
right.
to leave it here.
Liam, can you answer that?
Yeah, totally right. So, all credit to you, Trish, for the work you're doing and the story you've told today, because very few people in public life, certainly very few people in the House of Commons or on the top of government understand how radically the environment of gang violence has changed in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, this is a revolution that is underway at the moment, and the dynamics of it are very little understood. I mean, I really hope, Trish, that the BBC in particular can do a lot more work at just kind of bringing apart and helping explain what is going on, because it's transformational. So you've got to have neighbourhood policing, without a doubt, and that is now being rebuilt, albeit slowly.
But that's,
but to your question,
it's been reduced in Candy because the improve of statistics.
But this is exactly where you're right. So you cannot do anything in less than 10 years. So you've got to have 10-year funding settlements. So I have one estate in Hodge Hill, Bromford and Firs, where we negotiated £1 million worth of big local funding from the big lottery. But it's a 10-year fund, 100,000 a year. It's predictable, consistent. You can see the arc into the future. And that's allowed us to make mistakes, to get things wrong, to try different approaches. We've got to stop this kind of 2 to 3 year funding cycle. You've got to have 10-year funds.
Yeah. I wish you can look into this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leon. Can we have the next question? Thanks, sir. And also, whilst we're here, Geoff, very quickly, I want you to think about how can Coventry find its place in the world if it hasn't already, because we're getting a lot of questions online as well. So if you ever think about this, and sorry, the gentleman can give his question.
My name's Richard. I'm a product of the city. My parents met in Coventry and had a family together and then got divorced very quickly. But I still have friends and family here.
Come on,
I wondered if you... No.
They've given us the gift of you, Richard.
They've given the gift, exactly. That was enough done. If you were the Chancellor for 3 months and got to do something big for the city, what is the thing that you would do that would change its fortunes going forward? That's
Great question. All three of you can please answer quickly if you can. Start with you, Geoff.
Oh God, that's thanks. You put me on the spot there. God, there is so much I would do. I think one of the things that obviously City of Culture is doing a great deal. So I'm thinking about legacy and things coming after that. And I think definitely what we've heard from our friends from Canley. Coventry has, and it's probably answering Mike's question as well. Coventry has a huge human resource, a huge human potential, and so I think a massive city-sized community support process to actually help people in communities develop. And as Liam just said, it takes 10 years. Let's speed that process up. Let's make that a 3-year. Let's make that a 2-year process. And when we have the funding to do that and the will to do it, we can do that. So something which brings whole communities together much more in terms of cohesion, I think. Thank you. Lauryn, you've got the mini. You are in charge. What's the first thing you bring to Coventry?
I think there needs to be more organisations like Fridays, like Positive Youth Foundation, more places that are accessible for young people. Because like you say, some places people are worried to go to. There's community centres which have, they've got that stigma and there's people surrounding them. There needs to be more places where people feel comfortable to go to, like all over Coventry, not just in Hillfields and Canley.
And Lauryn, how do we stop being scared to talk to young people, being scared to approach young people, being scared to be part of the solution? I think you've got to listen to what they've got to say, because there's no need to be scared to talk to a young person. They're the people who know the answers to the questions you've got. If you've got a question about what's going to engage young people, what's going to get young people to come to your community centre or to your session or to what you're running, then ask the young people what they want. Okay. What do they want to see and what would make them come there, and you'll find the answer because it's right there. Leon, a lot of people...
So Gen Z is going to save the world, okay? So Gen Z is collaborative, creative, and we need to challenge this generation to kind of say, right, here are the problems that we need to solve. Here are now some resources to solve them. Crack on with it. And so it's not just let's provide youth services. It is let's provide youth services which are a bit directional, which is, look, we need you as a generation to help us fix these problems which we have as a city, as a country, as a community. Yeah. We need to actually empower this generation with a sense of the task ahead, a sense of the mission, because that is how you bring forward leadership. Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic. Any more questions? Because we haven't got long. To this gentleman, do you want to just...
Very quickly, if we're going to be able to influence the older youth generation, we've got to start with the youngsters, the 7 and 8-year-olds at community centres.
Yeah.
Once they've got to 13, it's too late.
Yes.
Yep.
They've been radicalised. Not necessarily in the way we normally use that term, but their minds are fixed. How do we get to the younger group?
Okay, so primary age, how do we get to, and anyone else can answer that as well, how do we get to the primary school,
One question I've got.
well, no, okay, we just want to answer this one first. We've only got 2 minutes. So how do we get to the young people, Lauryn? The younger, the 7 and 8-year-olds, how do we get to them? Sorry.
I completely agree that you have to start young. I work with children from 8 years old. I do sessions, just football, have them in a youth centre playing FIFA or table football and stuff like that. And I think that getting them from that age and then giving them that relationship with your strand, your company, that is important, because I've had that relationship with the youth organisation, and that's helped me grow from, when I first started, when I was starting secondary school, to now. But I also don't know if I'd say that at age 13 it's too late to engage with a young person, because I do think that you can engage with them at any age if you just try hard.
Okay, Geoff?
Yeah, I completely agree with Lauryn. I don't think it's at any age, whether someone is 15 or 50. I think that it's important to engage. But I also think as well, what's really key in that is what happens between. Why does that shift happen and occur? Why do people? And I chair the Music Education Hub for the city, so I work with a lot of young people. And I think what's important is that as young children get older, into teenage years, the real world starts to creep in. So I think for me, it is about addressing economic inequalities. It is about addressing social inequalities, because I think it's at that moment where young people start to lose faith in the society and in community, and it's really important that they don't do that.
Can I just say as well, I volunteer, and honest to goodness, I've been doing it for 2 years now. And when I was in Woodend yesterday, which was a fantastic area, I smiled at one young girl, and she was with her brother, and they were playing football. I said, "Well done, great keepy uppies." And she came back and she said, "Thank you." And I've spoken to some black teenagers, 15, 16, 17, and every time I go past, they're strangers, but I will smile at them. And I'll never forget this one guy who now is a fantastic volunteer for Positive. He said, "You know what? I stopped because you were the first person who smiled at me this week. You're the first person who smiled at me this week. People normally cross the road." This is the reality we are living in. If we do not connect with these young people, they will not connect with us, and they will stay disengaged and disassociated with the society they're in. So please, it's okay when they're cute little kids to wave and smile. When they're teenagers, just smile. It makes a bloody difference. And volunteering as well, please. We have literally got 30 seconds. And Leon, get ready to answer this gentleman's question.
It's not so much a question, it's more a response to how do we engage with children and young people. And I think the relationships with the schools are really important. I run an organisation called Loudmouth, which works in a lot of their primary and secondary schools in Coventry. And it's about finding an appropriate way to introduce these issues at a young age and then gradually reintroduce them every year. So you've got this kind of spiral curriculums you build up.
Brilliant.
And it's not just about asking young people what they think, but acting on that. And I think that's where it becomes really important. It's not just about asking an opinion, get that tick box, we've done that. It's about really engaging with what young people are saying and then making changes based on that.
So my challenge to Coventry then in this year, this City of Culture year, is good people come together and tell the rest of the country how youth work and youth services should be reinvented for the 21st century.
Yeah.
Because you've got the assets, you've got the talent, you guys know what to do. Come together in some kind of summit on the future of youth work and make that one of the outputs from City of Culture. You'll be amazing. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Right, we have to wrap up, and sorry my big mouth interjected quite sometimes. Can I say thank you? I hope you've enjoyed it. Our speakers have been amazing, haven't they? Who needs question time? Who needs question time?
That was very good.
Thank you, Lauryn. Thank you, Geoff. Thank you, Leo. And thank you. Hope you enjoy the day.